Hello, welcome to the 14th day of November 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video diary exercise that I do each morning at 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the various challenges and opportunities that I met. Uh, Particularly those which were I handled them very well or very poorly, where the learning opportunities are. I go over the 8 objectives of my creed, and I prepare for the coming day. But first, a little disclaimer that this is a private journal entry that I do publicly. As such, given that it is private, so to speak, I have latitude to go anywhere I want, talk about any subject for as long or as little as I like. You are more than welcome to watch and participate by your comments or your criticisms, which I will read at the end. But keep in mind that since this is a my own effort towards self-improvement, I sometimes talk about subjects that might make some people uncomfortable, namely death, which is sure to come up. Certainly going to come up in this one. I also want to extend a huge thank you to my YouTube subscribers and welcome to new subscribers, but especially my YouTube viewers, my members on YouTube, and my Patreon supporters. I really do appreciate your support. All right, jumping into it. Yesterday's notes, I do keep a notebook and it logs out the the last 24 hours. And I have two entries under the heading of last 24 hours. The first is the job situation, and the second one says a very peaceful day with parenthetical remarks that with pocket change comments. Pocket change worry. Let's talk about the job situation. So I mentioned at the conclusion of yesterday's Good Life meditation that I had applied for 6 jobs the day prior. So that would have been 2 days ago. And I'm starting to get feedback from those, including it's very interesting how serendipitous life is, right? So I reached out to one of the 6 schools that I reached out to 2 days ago is owned by someone who I would consider a personal friend. I basically asked ChatGPT to do some research for me and identify private language, English language schools within a reasonable distance of the train station here where I live, and it came up with a nice list. And then we went through and studied each school and sent a letter of an email of inquiry along with my custom tuned resume for English teaching to that school. One of them is a school for someone who I've known for a very long time. In fact, if you know my story well enough, um, you may know that back in 2008 when my business collapsed and I was faced with several days of dark days of sleepless nights, staring up at the ceiling, trying to wonder how I was going to support my family. My business had failed. I had about 2 months worth of funds in the bank. I had no job. I was in debt. I had a daughter. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. My daughter was enrolled in a private school at the time, expensive private school at the time. We were living in an apartment just down the road, and from where literally I could walk there in 5 minutes from where I live now. And I was in dire straits. You can imagine. And so I resolved. This is before ChatGPT or the internet was still pretty young. I had resolved that I was going to get a job. So I drummed up a resume, and I, on a rainy weekend, over and a couple of rainy weekdays, over the rainy weekend, I completed the resume. And then on beginning the start of the week, I pedaled that bicycle in rainy weather all around Shizuoka, around all of the schools, all of the privately owned language schools in the area where I could just walk right in the door and drop in the resume and say, I'm looking for work. That yielded a job, not a very good job, but it yielded a job that then yielded a fantastic job, which was the job that I stayed with until I went back to America in 2000. I stayed at that job until 2020, 23, December of 2023 when I was done. And then I moved to America and carried on from there. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is that one of the schools, one of the very first schools that I applied to, is one that's just over the hill from where I live. I could literally walk there in a very short distance. run by a friend of mine, a person that was a friend. I knew him before. I just knew that that was his school. And I remember distinctly, it's etched into my brain, stepping into his school on a weekday evening, opening the door. He was busy sitting on the floor. He's very successful at what he does. He's got a very successful school of his own. And I reached in and handed him a resume. I mean, I came unannounced. I went to all these places unannounced and said, I'm looking for work. Now, he didn't need any work at the time, but I remember the look on his face as I handed him the resume, and he had children all around him. I had interrupted his lesson. I felt bad about that, so I got out of there real quick. Anyway, so it was serendipity. It was serendipity, but it was also a strange deja vu to send that same person a message on Facebook Messenger uh, 2 days ago saying, "Hey, I'm looking for work again." But under very, very different circumstances, right? Back then in 2008, I was in a circumstance of great desperation, you know, trying to sustain my family. Now, sure, I've got my project 2026. I do have a challenge, but I think I have that challenge already figured out. It's not a I'm certainly not in a circumstance of desperation at all anymore. It's more of a circumstance of backup to make sure that I can have liquidity, funding, monies to make sure I can get to full Social Security distributions beginning in summer next year, because of my shortcomings in planning for my first year of retirement. And I think I've got it covered already, even without a job. But I want to get a job to double make sure that I'm good, and also because kind of think I want to work. So anyway, he was one of the persons I contacted again, and wouldn't you know it, he had just been contacted by another school that needs somebody, and so he gave me their contact information. He wrote back and said, "Hey, I'm not uh, available, but I've got this friend Kurt that might be available." So anyway, I've been in contact with that school, which is downtown. It's a bigger school. Probably not a school. It's not a school at all. And I won't give any details yet, but it's not a school at all that I would have thought to apply to. I wouldn't have imagined it would be the kind of place that would need somebody like me. But it turns out they do. They need somebody, and they got back to me pretty quickly. They're going to be going over. Their staff is going to be talking about me today, and the person I talked to yesterday said they're going to reach out to me today to arrange a meeting next week. So hopefully I'll have an interview at that school next week. Now, in other news, I've got a couple of other places that have come back, and it seems like there's people that there is need for help. My idea being initially to be a substitute teacher, right? The kind of guy that leveraging my free time and my availability to say, hey, if these schools that are all within at least this other one is farther away. It's three train stops away, um, and then a short walk from the train station. At least the ones that I sent the resume, the letter of inquiry to, are all within a short distance. They could say, "Hey, they've got a teacher that called in sick or something like that. We need someone in a pinch. Let's call Kurt." Right. So I would love to be that substitute teacher in the area that schools can call in a pinch. I talked about it with my wife. Optimally, what I'd like to do is work no more than 2 hours a day, Monday to Thursday would be just perfect. Just perfect. 2 hours, no more than 2 hours a day. Um, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Maybe being willing to push into the evening if necessary. So kind of leave that flexible. Don't know how that's going to pan out. I mean, maybe some of these places want somebody who can sign on for more regular hours, but again, optimally no more than 2 lessons a day. Now, if this other place that I got reference to, if they need more, like if they want someone to sign a 1 year contract and work full time, I'd probably do it. Yeah, just to dispel my friggin' pocket change worry. you know, just That's another interesting perspective at this stage of life. Back when in my 30s and the 40s, I was looking for jobs when I was because I had to work. I was looking for jobs that would give me good, sustainable income to support my family and security for year on year. I mean, they were open ended. I didn't have any idea that I would ever leave any of the jobs that I left. There was really never a job that I took that I said, well, this is just until I get somewhere else. Um, Truly, I've never thought that even that relatively not such a good job that I first got after my crash in 2008, which wasn't from that friend. I got that job from somebody else, um, total stranger. In fact, just one of the schools that I went in and left the resume with. And I'm grateful for them. And it just wasn't a very good job, mainly because I was dealing with mostly kindergartners all day long, which are not my cup of tea. Um, and but I've always looked at each job that way. I've always kind of said, well, okay, here I am. This is them. This is where I'm at. And I didn't think about the end. But in this case, I have the latitude. I can do that. I can say, well, if they want me to sign a contract for a year and I give it my all for a year, by gum, by gum, I can do that. And I will do that. And I can do it with great peace of mind. And it's really interesting to look at this from that perspective, realizing that, you know, um, I don't have any family to support anymore. I don't have a rent to pay. My pension covers all of our essentials. So when Social Security comes in, that'll just be a bonus on top of that. So that'll cover the debt, right? That I'm still paying off, and it'll be more than enough to cover that. So it'll even leaving me go out and have some extra. So anything that I do, I remember this is my private journal. So I'm dear diary. If it sounds like I'm I'm flattering myself or, you know, you know, saying things in a more congratulatory tone than I might if I was doing something publicly, that's because this is a diary. And sometimes I need to remind myself that I'm in a good situation. That really the only thing, push come to shove, that I really need to worry about anymore in life is my health. Uh, the rest can be covered, even if I'm get another candle, even if I don't get a job at all. Boom, boom, boom. Let me see if I can make this stick on here with another candle. Very nicely. There we go. A little better light. So that's the job situation. Laid down a couple of lines in the water, and I've got a couple of bites on the line, and one really good one. In fact, the one that I got the lead from my friend. Uh, I looked at the school, and it looks like something that would be a lot of fun. Not kids. Um, I really hope that it goes well. I mean, I'm glad I brought a suit over with me because this is the kind of place that it looks like, at least for formal events, they wear suits. So if I go for an interview, I can wear a suit. And I'll have the weekend to get a shirt and stuff. Excited about this. Yeah. Now, that was the first bullet item under the last 24 hours. Under the second one says, a very peaceful day with pocket change worry. Now, that's not because of all this job stuff. That all came later in the day. Um, uh, the very peaceful day was a result of yesterday's interesting, and I was going to write it down on that little board right there. Interesting little phrase that I came up with at the end of the meditation. Hold on, go back a page. That phrase was, I'm on the wrong page. There we go. Wow, I missed two pages. I'm wasting the pages in my little book here. Oh, yeah, the phrase was, tonight I will die in my sleep. You may remember I finished the meditation yesterday, and I think I'm going to finish the meditation every day that way. Tonight I will die in my sleep. And I thought that I was just a second here. I thought that I was just saying something that was a sentiment to, let pass and go. And it wasn't. It had a deep, resonant impact on my day yesterday. I went through the day yesterday imagining that every step of the day was the last, because tonight I will die in my sleep. And I was savoring the moments the way that we do um, a cheesecake at the end of a good meal when we know that our weekend, it's a Sunday evening, the weekend is done. We have to go back to the grind tomorrow. We had a glorious meal with our family, and it's dessert, and there's half a slice of cheesecake left on my plate, and savoring every bit of it in the moment that we have as the weekend expires away. That's how it was like yesterday. Not, I wasn't, I don't even know how to describe it. It was, there was no rush. There was no moving on to the next thing. The high point came, the special high point came when I took Rudy for a stroll, which is, I've got this little dog stroller, and he and I use, and we walk, and I let him guide me. And then when he's tired, I put him in the stroller, and it's one of these types with the big wheels that can go off road, and we wander. And at one point, we got to the river, where the Tomo, where the Yoshigawa, the Yoshida River behind my house meets the Tomei River and fills into it. And I stood there and watched Mount Fuji. It was these big lenticular clouds going across the top, and I just stood there peeling a mikan that I had bought from a little bag of 100 yen mikan from the vendor, and just ate the mikan and watched the clouds. And I was enraptured, just a rapturous feeling of, I mean, that's too strong a word. It was a glorious feeling of just being alive. And that subtle sentiment of just gratitude for being alive, and gratitude at the peace at this point in life, having completed my main missions in life of my career, my raising of my child, and the writing of my book, having, and a good marriage in a good settled position, all of these things in good order, and reminding myself that tonight I will die in my sleep, and really just soaking it up. It was really good. Now, I don't know if I can squeeze that quality juice out every single day through this one sentence, but I'm going to try it again today. Let's see how it goes. That's all I've really got to say. Oh no, for that, I've got the creed now. My 8 objectives consist of the following. Number one, to be ready. Oh, and you can read these in Going Alone in the chapter titled The Good Life, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube members. Number one, first objective is to be ready to die at all times, having my affairs, my life's work, and my uh, um, relationships in order. Number two is to make good and effective use of my time, so that I'm squeezing good utility out of every moment that I possibly can. Three is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, precisely those which are codified in my book. Number four is to cultivate good emotional reactions, so I respond well to difficult situations. Five is to perform good actions relative to my creed. Six is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. And that's the one I'm going to read this morning. So let me open my book. My candle is burned down to nothing. Recognizing objective number 6 of the Good Life Creed, recognizing true limits and true opportunities. I will strive to live life in honest recognition of my true scope of control, which extends no further than my thoughts, actions, and reactions, and the consequences these might entail. I'll ask myself how I may craft favorable ends from any circumstance. What misfortune do I not have the power to fashion into some instrument of virtue? Is it death now at the door? Do not bar the way, for the hour of our meeting is truly at hand, and I will not attempt to detain in vain any will, force, or consequence which is truly beyond my control. And what role apathy in my discernment and feigned engagement with a universe beyond the scope of my small control? Yikes, it's so dark. Can't read. And what reach must I attempt beyond the near pale illumination of reason? Wow, I'm particularly pleased with that last sentence. What reach must I attempt beyond the pale illumination of reason? Wow. Sometimes I'm amazed at the influence that writers like Johnson and Hawthorne and Thoreau, of course, have had on me. I wouldn't have been able to write that sentence without them. So recognizing the scope. Hold on. The scope of what I can and cannot reach or do, so that I do not demand more of myself or expect more of myself than is actually possible. Like right now, that letter that I'm waiting for is beyond the scope of my control. It's beyond my reach right now, somewhere between the sea, and it will either arrive, and I've given myself a timeline by Wednesday next week for that to show up before I begin the reissuance process. Recognizing that, realizing that that's beyond my control helps to manage the pocket change worry relative to the receipt of that letter. All right. So, as for the next 24 hours, we'll have some job inquiry emails to follow up on. This, some things that came in the evening last night after I was asleep. People were up late, I guess. And then I will. Today, I missed radio exercise yesterday. Lingered too long doing this, which was worth it. A good. This is a very important part of my day. I just did radio exercise right here instead. And Tim, I hope you're doing. If you're out there, I hope you're enjoying your radio exercise. That's that for that. Let me read comments now. Mm, There's Robert giving us the weather in Napanee, Canada at 42 degrees Fahrenheit and 66% humidity and an air quality index of 14. Very good quality air today. Robert, it's too dark for me to even really make out clearly. It looks like it's just below 10 degrees and about 85% humidity here. A little dark to see. Tim, hello Tim, says good morning weather check for the UK at 8:24 p.m. is 9.8 degrees Celsius and 95% humidity. A calm sunny day. Storm Claudia due tomorrow, predicting a month's rain and high winds. Wow, a month's rain with one storm. Wow. Robert says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. Evelyn, hi Evelyn. Evelyn says hi to myself, Robert, and Tim at 9:36 p.m. in Bologna, Italy. It's 10 degrees and 97%. Well, we're all pretty much around the same temperature there. And Robert says hi to Evelyn. Tim says hi to Evelyn. Robert says, if you see that random typing, that was me forgetting I was connected. I connected my keyboard to this phone via Bluetooth and wiping the dust from the keys. Huh? I didn't see it. Ray says, uh, morning, Kurt, and everyone, 13 degrees Celsius and 86%. That would be humidity. That would be in Washington State. We're all falling in the right range or the same, similar range today. Tim says hello to Ray. Evelyn says hi to Okuyama Ray. Robert says hello to Okuyama Ray. Tim says, thanks, Kurt. Back to radio exercise as from today, usually at 7 a.m. before the day starts. It's that Daini that gets us right. That second. Have you noticed that, Tim? That I don't know which video you've got, but there's two sections. Daiichi, which means number one, and Daini, which means number two. It's that Daini that really can get you. Some of the radio exercise just do Daiichi. Um, Tim says, shoulders have been playing me up the past week, so it's difficult to do the exercises. Yeah, you mentioned that. So I hope that they're feeling a little bit better today. Well, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I have some emails, some correspondence to catch up on, including a correspondence from the United States about some opportunity over there, of all things. Wonder where that, wow, that'll be interesting. Doing the number one at the moment. Okay, that's plenty. That's what most people do. Here in Japan, the actual morning exercise that's broadcast over NHK does number one, and then there's a small break and a stretching interlude, and then we do number two. Evelyn says, nice chatting with you guys. Thank you, Evelyn. Nice to chat with you as well, as always. And Robert says, thank you, Kurt. And then bye all. And by the way, I will have Jim Jam Birds. If you see this, I did send you a message yesterday. Your package is sitting right over there. You can see it sitting on top of that's your book, Jim Jam Bird, sitting on top of that scale. I was going to send it to you yesterday, but I learned that Canada is having a strike with the postal service, so the Japan Post has stopped sending shipments, or accepting shipments from Japan Post has stopped sending to Canada, just like there's not sending to the United States. Hopefully, so it's going to sit there, Jim Jam Birds, until it's ready, until the postal moratorium is lifted. Then I'll get it in the mail to you. Thank you very much for your patience. I imagine it'll be sorted out pretty soon. Wish you all the best, everybody. Another candle burning out. Be safe, but never too safe. Unless you want to be. It's all up to you. Be as safe as you want to be. And tonight, I die in my sleep. Bye, Tim. Have a great Friday.